Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Setter Tales podcast. I'm Wade Kisner, and this is Thomas Heidenworth, and we're your host tonight. And man, what a week it's been! You want to ask me what my week's been like?
What has your week been like?
I am, I am painting a house, and it's been a while. I'd put it off. I'll admit that, but I'm painting a house, and I guess I'm old school because I know you won't agree with that I'm old school, but I am. And all my neighbors have vinyl siding and all this, and I'm out there with a paintbrush, and I'm thinking, what's wrong with this scene? But I'm gaining on it, and as the mornings are cool, I'm thinking I got to get this done before bird season, and so I have the front and the side that you see when you come down the street. So my wife is pretty happy right now. And if I don't get to the back, well, nobody sees the back, right? So anyway,
Well, are you doing like the Daniel son, like on the Karate Kid, where you're up and
show
down,
me up and down. Yeah,
up and
yes, I
down?
am. Yes, I am.
Well, just
I
think
am.
your hand-eye coordination is going to be
I
so
am. I
much
tell
better.
you,
So maybe you'll be able
I,
to keep up with us young bucks and
well,
shoot
I don't know
birds.
about that, but yeah, and I have fully admit old school. There's nothing wrong with old school. Sometimes the old paintbrush does a pretty good job, but boy, I forgot what kind of time it takes and up and down the ladder and all that. But old school, as you know, old school is where I cut my teeth hunting a number of years ago. Was quail. And, up in this part of the country, unfortunately, we don't see a lot of wild quail. When we do, it's kind of a gift and a treasure. And usually you happen on it by accident. But
Then you're going,
yeah, you're going, what
oh,
the hell just happened?
and then you don't get to
Yeah,
shoot at
feel
one.
like a dummy. But our guest tonight, Durrell Smith, from down in the Georgia area, is a quail hunter, and so we're going to really talk a little bit about some of the things he's doing down there. He's really kind of drilled down into the history of quail hunting and how it kind of started back in the early uh, 1900s and some of the techniques and just some of the training stuff that has been kind of handed down from generation to generation. And I think he's doing some really cool stuff. And so we'll bring Durrell Smith on. Durrell, you there?
Yes, sir. How's it
Hey,
going, y'all?
we are
Good.
doing great. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for
And
having me.
well, you're down. I know you live in Atlanta, don't you, or outside Atlanta? But
Right outside of Atlanta.
you kind of chase birds down in that Thomasville kind of area.
hmm
What's
It
that
is.
like?
Well, it's the one time of the week during hunting season. I guess the one time of the year that I actually go to bed early, because it's a 4.5 hour drive from Atlanta to Thomasville,
Ooh,
and I
okay.
did that time and time and time and time again. But I mean, I enjoy it. It's a little bit of a hike. I usually leave at like 2 a.m., get there right when the sun rises or starts to rise. I can hear birds calling, and I mean, it's so steeped in tradition. I mean, and it hasn't changed. I mean, the bird numbers may have changed a bit from those times, like the early 1900s, mid, in the heyday of quail hunting down here in the South. The scenery still looks the same. It's just the bird numbers are a little bit different. The
Yeah, it's
dog's still the
beautiful.
same and all of that.
Well, let's, I guess, to kind of start. You kind of got interested in bird hunting, kind of uniquely, I guess. What was that story like? How did you kind of get onto this bird hunting thing that you're doing now? Where did that all start?
So I will say for me, it picked up. There were like two phases. There was when I was working with my lab and I was hunting quail, doing the same thing. He just wasn't pointing birds. And that was my introduction into hunting. That was like 2016. I will say the defining point for me though was opening up a garden and gun magazine in a Publix grocery store. Matter of fact, it was like my first year hunting, give or take, and it was the July 2017 issue of Garden and Gun, and I'm flipping through it, and I see these two guys in there. One guy on a beautiful Tennessee walking horse, and I grew up riding as a kid, so I was already interested there. We ride horses in Atlanta, and then on top of the walking horse, there's this beautiful white dog, white pointer, running in front of the horse. And I was like, man, and that was the opening of the article. So then I flip a page and there's the black handlers trial. I didn't know what it was at the time. It was a field trial. And then I flip another page and there is my other buddy and mentor, Curtis Brooks. I mean, looking like I say, look like King Arthur, man. Just beautiful white pointer stacked up on the back of a tailgate. The dog looking dead at you, you know, he's looking dead at you. I mean, cut dry face. It was just like between Curtis and Neil, I was just like, man, I got to find out who those guys are. And as I was reading through the magazine, I found out that it was South Georgia. So I went to college in South Georgia. I went to Albany State, and which is the beginning of the Red Hills. And I didn't really get it. Like you see that kind of bird dog stuff all the time, but from Albany to Thomasville, the further south you go, it gets deeper and deeper into bird dogs. Like you see it on various storefronts and all kinds of stuff like that. So I saw that photo, and so I read in it that Sincola Plantation was mentioned, and in it, I was like, all right, I need to find out how to get in contact with Sincola Plantation because it said that Neil had worked there. I went to Wade. We talk about old school. I went to the yellow pages.
That's pretty old school. I haven't even done that for a while.
So we went from Barry White to old school earlier. So that should tell you about me. I went to the yellow pages and found the number to Sincola Plantation, and I called. I just cold called. I knew no one down there. I just was like, let me take a chance. And I pick up, and the owner, Gates Kirkham, answered, who's now a friend of mine. And I say, hey, Mr. Kirkham, you know, pardon me for calling, but, you know, is Mr. Neil Carter there? And he says, well, you missed him by a year. He was like, he just retired, but I'll give you his cell phone number. He lives on the backside of my property. So Sincola actually runs right next to Neil's property. So it wasn't even like I had that far to go. So I call Neil, and you know, he's like, I don't know you, but you want to learn bird dog? Come on down. So my wife and I pack up, and we were dating at the time. In the midst of getting my truck stuck in the mud down there trying to go hunt after Hurricane Michael, that was its own other story because she helped me get a big old truck out of the mud. Later on that day, I ended up meeting my mentor, and I get there, his wife and my wife, they go off and they're talking. And Neil doesn't really have a whole lot to say other than like, here's Alicia gave me a long check cord and was like, get that dog right there. So I walk up to the kennel, and it's like 11 dogs just barking and hooping and hollering. Pointers, is mostly pointers and a handful of setters. And he said, get that dog right there. And I didn't know that was his like roughest dog. And so I go in, I open up the kennel, grab him by his leg, collar him. And as soon as I start walking him out, the dog just almost takes my arm off, man. I mean, just the sheer power, you know, of those dogs. And Neil was like, you know, let me show you how to do this. And as soon as it was like, he was like Obi-Wan or something like that, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, just grabs the check cord and the dog simmers down. I was like, oh, okay. Well, clearly I don't know what I'm doing. And from that point in time, he just took me up under his wing. He was teaching me all kinds of knowledge. Anytime I could get down there, he opened up his house, called anytime I had a question about my dogs. And actually not long after that, I got my first pointer, Vegas, who was in my Hard Day Riding film. Matter of fact, that when you gave me that hat, Wade,
Yeah.
that was my first pointer in there. And so that film, I got your hat and a dog. And that was, I mean, it was cool, man. Just the horseback thing and the field trial thing. It was in wild quail. Like I'd never seen anything like it.
No, that's something, that story, that's something probably all of us have ran into somebody that in the hunting world and the dog world that just take you under their wing. And if you're interested, we're all willing to share our knowledge. You know, some people have knowledge on labs, some have pointers, whatever, but everybody's willing to share that knowledge. So that's a cool story. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to that as well.
Right. Absolutely. It's one of those things, man, where I think it fundamentally goes back down to representation. Like, who do you want to be like in the uplands, right? Like we've all got these programs, right? Like you've got Setter Tales, and before I started my stuff, I was watching y'all stuff, and it's like, who are those folks in the community that can really exemplify something that you can sink your teeth into, right? Like
Mhm.
we talk about the next generation of uplanders and bird dog folks and everything, but like we got to give them something to aspire to.
Yeah, that's one of my big things too, is you get the younger generation, involved, because at some point, if you don't, there's not many of us left, really. And it's getting that way all over the country, where people would rather, they're so busy, they don't go hunting, they don't buy dogs, and they don't carry on traditions. I know a lot of people, their whole family hunted, and cousins, and they get together on holidays and they have a big hunt. That doesn't happen anymore. It's
Right.
just the sport's not dying, but the way people go about it, and the story you just told, it doesn't happen. So it's up
Right.
to guys like us to keep that tradition alive.
And what I think what you find is that somebody like Neil and other trainers, handlers like that. I mean, I'm sure he's tickled to death for somebody like you to come down periodically that he can work with and joke with, and
Hmm.
probably let you make a mistake, and let you fail, and then say, here's how you do it right, and what'd
Right.
you do wrong, and one of those guys. And that's how we were all kind of taught. Was, I first started hunting with my granddad, when I was young, and he wasn't big on, he wasn't a real cuddly kind of a guy, I guess that was the best way to put it. So I mean, he would tell you once, and he expected you to listen
Hmm.
and get it.
Right.
And then if you messed up or you didn't do it right, whether it was a gun safety issue or doing something with the dog, he would tell you what you did wrong. And but you didn't want to, kind of like you with this gentleman, you found yourself where you really put the time and effort in to listen and to get it right, because you didn't want to let him down. You
Right.
wanted to make sure that, and it was a proud moment when he gave you more responsibility to go get the dog, or go do or carry a certain gun. So anyway,
Hmm.
it seems like
Well,
we're kind of losing some of that, in our
and
in our days.
I think, and this is me, the pot calling the kettle black, right? I'm going to blame it on technology. Watch this. We've got these platforms, and technology is great, but one of the first questions he asked me was, "Can you listen? Are you teachable? You know, you got two ears, two eyes, and one mouth for a reason. Do the math." And he put it bluntly like that. Like, look,
Yeah.
if you can't listen, like this that we're doing, this is an art form, and frankly, historically, an art form that has been orally delivered and passed down for over 100 years at this point in time. If we just think about just the timeline of history, like black people weren't writing back then. We were working dogs and we were breaking horses and doing all of that, but we weren't writing. So that had to be something that, if you wanted to keep your job, number one, a lot of the times you kept that close, number one. And you only taught people that really, really wanted to learn it. But then number two, on the receiving end of it, there's so much deference to that kind of knowledge, right? And that kind of just skill, man. Like, and it's amazing when you see someone that is, Neil is in late 70s, early 80s, and like it's one of those things where it's like, how are you still doing this? Your horses are still great. You got 11. He got more dogs than I got. and I mean, all of them are just rock stars.
So he professionally was working full time for the there on the plantation, then doing the hunts, and then he retired from that. So now he's just training his own dogs. now? Is that what he's doing?
Yeah, so he
Okay.
worked he worked Sincola his whole life, and that was over 50 years. And now after his retirement, I mean, he's got an incredible string of dogs. Matter of fact, he and Curtis gave me a dog, but he's got an incredible string of dogs. Like I said, a mix of pointers and setters. And he guides hunts old-fashioned way. You know, he's got the wagon, horseback stuff, a lot of land down in Thomasville, Georgia. I mean, he is keeping that tradition and just passing it on to us, me, his son, a few of us other young guys that are just soaking it up, man, and just taking that knowledge and using it in our own kind of way.
So let me ask you this. In your time you've spent down there, have you discovered what is the mystery of the red dirt? What is the red dirt and what effect does that have on quail? Can you answer that question?
I can answer that question. So it's about, and the best, actually, I had a really good explanation for it. Came from a field trial of David Johnson, matter of fact, and Neil didn't disagree. And David Johnson, he did a lot of stuff in Alabama, and in Georgia, but then also Neil is South Georgia. So the red clay, man, it's a grit thing. It's like it's something about it, man. It's like you rub your hands in it. It's a certain kind of soul that just comes with it. There's like the the indigenous piece that, these people walk that land. There's a lot of hard work that went into cultivating that land. And so when you have that kind of stuff, you have a people that really, really, really vibrate. Like that community vibrates down there because of the red clay. It's, you think about the thing that comes from the clay, like it's the quail, right? But then our longleaf pines, that is something specific to Georgia, and it's something about the trees that grow better down here. It's a mystique, it's an allure, it's all of that stuff. But then you talk about the dogs and the dogmen, like in Alabama, you got black dirt, black mud, and then in Georgia, you got red clay. That black dirt, man, if you look at Alabama dogs, they're like linebackers or something. Like they're just, dogs come out of Alabama, man, they're rugged dogs, and their power. I just think about a linebacker when I think about those dogs. But then when you get to the Red Hills, man, like that's your finesse, right? That's your speed. That's driving a Porsche. And it's just all that community, man. That whole area it's naturally down there. The trees grow a certain kind of way because of it. It just puts a certain kind of spirit into anything that touches it. And I've said this before, man, you just don't make good dogs unless they touch Thomasville, Georgia. It's a different, almost spiritual thing.
So what are the setters like down there? I'm kind of setters. I know you have one now, right?
Hey, I've got 3 setters. I've
You have
got
3 setters now?
Yeah. Oh, I went, look, man, when I jump in, I jump in now.
Got a boy.
Wow. And a horse? You got a horse too?
I got a horse. I have
Oh,
a
my
saddlebred
goodness.
horse. Yep.
Wow. You are all in.
You couldn't tell. The setters, man, they run like our pointers do. They just long-haired pointers. They are just long-haired pointers, man. And it's amazing just how similar they are in terms of like their patterning and their drive. But temperamentally, they're still what you expect out of setters. They're not go all the time. But man, when they hit the ground, they might as well be pointers.
So are you then hunting them together? I mean, you got a mix. You're hunting a brace of
Mm-hmm.
you have a setter with a pointer and whatever.
Oh, that's the southern way to do it, man.
Yeah.
You got to get one setter. And actually, for my kennel, my new logo, I'd actually designed it that way: one setter, one pointer, and a horse.
Tremendous. Yeah.
So when you talked about the temperament there, and I got a buddy that had setters for forever. He's the guy who got me into setters. Well, He does the horseback trials, and he went after he started getting into the regular English pointers. And when I pull in the driveway, you can definitely tell the difference of when he had in the kennel. And the setter, it's kind of sitting there wagging its tail like, "Hey, come over and pet me or let me out." And the pointers are jumping 4 foot off the ground, spinning circles in the kennel. It's like, I kind of like this setter. I can let her in the house and she'll lay on the couch or just chill out. Like, yeah, he's gonna let me out. When it's time for me to go, I'm gonna run, and otherwise I'll just stand here and be calm. Is that kind of the same thing at your kennel, or I understand you're on horseback dogs. They're a little they have a little more
A little more oomph.
little
Uh-huh.
but as far as their temperaments, what would you say the difference you see in that?
So it is different. But I don't know, man. Like dang, I can't even. I want to say I'm making a generalization, but I feel like I'm not. Like you get a lot with a dog that can open up off a horseback. You just need a little bit more thump. I mean, you just do. And it's my dogs none of them are in the house. They're sleep 90% of the time, super calm. Like just when nobody's up there, they're fine. They're calm. You don't hear them barking. You don't hear any of that stuff. But like if they sense you coming up, I mean, the whole thing roars, man. It sounds like a football game or something. My pointer Vegas, who is my lead dog, the one that if I pull anybody out the truck, it's gonna be him. People are like, good Lord, the dog is like, I don't know, ADD or something, like, or what? Like, can you simmer him down? Like, what's going on? And he's always just rumbling, like it's like if you just leave a sports car just rumbling in the yard or something, he's just always ready to go. But it's a very, very, very controlled chaos. It's very controlled chaos. My setters, they're not so wound up, like I said, but they go and I like a dog, man, that out the gate will touch. I like a dog that isn't afraid to get out there. So all of my dogs early on, they'll hit 400, 500, 600 something yards, which is not necessarily useful right now, but I like to see that you got more in the tank. And then once I get you kind of dialed in, staying 10-2, even if you're that far out, then I can kind of start working you. And so that's where we get singing from. So you're on a horseback, man. You got to throw if you're on a horse's back is what I'm trying to say. You throw your voice through the woods to keep up with your dogs. Because down here in the piney woods, man, they look like ghosts just zipping through the woods. And a lot of the times you can't see them. But the way that we do it, man, and this is something Neil taught me, man, you have a certain cadence to your voice. That's I made the Barry White joke, but you have a certain cadence to your voice, a certain way that you sound that sounds like no one else. And that dog is keyed into you. And if I'm singing and I'm making a left turn, doesn't matter how far that dog is out, he just is dialed into my voice. And it's the prettiest thing when you can call and cast, man. I'll give you a short story, man. This past year, we were competing in the Georgia Florida Shooting Dog Handlers Club field trial. This is the black handlers trial down here. And it was my go. And I mean, I'm riding or whatever. And at a point during the trial, there's an opening. So it's about 100 yards of a dead shot. Just, I mean, clean pathway. And then you've got some switchgrass right on both sides, a little corridor. And the dog then has to follow the course and take a hard right, like a 90-degree right. Well, if you've got your dog dialed in, it's the prettiest thing in the world. It's the prettiest thing in the world. And what happened was this dog, he was going, and I called him back. I called him back, and he I'm trying to paint a picture for you. I call him back because it's hot. It was also 80, 90 degrees. It was pretty up there. So that should also tell you where we were at, like as far as the conditions. It's the end of the day. And there's a trick that when you're running a dog off a horseback, before he gets tired, you bring him back in, water him, run water down his back, run it over his head, turn him upside down, and run it down his stomach so he cools down. I call him back, and so then I turn my horse to the side. So the gallery is now looking at everybody and what we're trying to do. Well, by that point in time, I get the gallery's attention, and everybody's like, you can kind of see everybody is on their toes. I mean, like, what in the world is about to happen? Because when somebody turns their horse, you're like, whoa, what in the world? And I look back and I look at the judge and I see they're dialed in too. My brace mate has already picked up his dog. So this is a perfect opportunity to put on a show. I blow my whistle and wail on it, just boom, and he takes off 100-something yards, and he goes, and I just sing to him, and I start turning my horse just a little bit to the right, and that dog might have hit the prettiest arc going around that right turn. I mean, the judges, I heard them whispering, they were like, "Whoa, what are we?" And he hit that turn and jammed up on point right there. I mean, it was like the kind of point that kicks dirt up in the air.
Yeah.
And you were just like, oh, okay, that worked. That was cool.
Yeah.
Probably a bird there.
There was a bird. And sure enough, birds got up. And the dog, I love him to death, and I can't fault him. He got through the flush. I mean, just got through it. I fire my gun. He stands there. And as I'm going to reach for him, as soon as I go to reach for his collar, 2 more birds get up right up under his nose. Of course, the dog is going to turn and be like, what was that? That got me DQ'd.
Oh, man.
He didn't run off. He just literally took a half a step and was like, and I will never forget the words. It's just a little bit too much for me. I looked up at the judge because it was questionable. He said, man, it was just a little bit too much for me. But he was like, man, we had you on the board, but that's what you're looking for out of these hunts, man. Like, you want that kind of style, right? Like, you want, that's the spirit of the red clay. Like, it's grit, it's style, it's handles, right? It's all of those things that come together.
Yeah, and that's kind of like a drop the mic moment anyway,
Yeah.
The dog, you're on your own and everybody's watching and just does a phenomenal job, and even down there or up here, it's just fun to watch a dog on a dead run and do exactly what you want it to do, and then boom, just smokes a point and got the birds. And I would just leached him up anyway and just walked away and say, yeah, how do you like that?
Yeah, usually maybe you are the only person, or maybe your buddy you're hunting with, that get to see that. But you had the whole gallery there apparently that got the
whole gallery.
Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
And
they probably were saying, he just showing off. He's just
well, it's funny because, all right, so all of those guys are down there from Thomasville. So me being from Atlanta, I'm the outsider. They call me City Slicker.
Yeah.
So it was like, what is this man gonna do? And my wife was actually sitting in the gallery too. And so she heard them talking. And she was like, Durrell, she was like, I'm so glad he looked as good as he did. She was like, because they were gonna rip you alive later.
No, and I've been in them situations, and in some of the dog trials I've done with the tree dogs, and everybody's kind of gave up for the day. Their dogs are DQ'd out, or or they don't do nothing. Then your dog goes in there and does something. You're like, don't screw up, don't screw up, don't screw up. And then they do it, and then you're like, well, this is what we train these dogs to do, and they did everything right, but you still got that little voice talking in the back of your head, like, oh no, I hope he doesn't revert back to what he did like a month ago that I thought I fixed. Oh
Right.
no, but
oh my gosh, when
They're-
I
they're-
was
I mean,
thinking that today, running my dog today.
and in the end, they're just a dog,
Mhm.
They make mistakes just like we do, and if I make a mistake at work, I'm going to hear about it, and that's their job.
He
So
never makes a mistake.
I
Yeah.
rarely screw up, but
Not in the field anyway.
not in the out. Now
Not in the field
I'll fall
anyway.
down a lot. I fall down a lot and
I
embarrass
never
myself,
fall
but
down. You know, it's probably from how you describe the other handlers and the people that you've interacted with down there in Thomasville. More than likely, though, you have kind of become their outlet to the
Mhm.
rest of us in the hunting world, you know, to kind of tell their story, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you've been doing. I know you had a video I watched, Dogmen, which was really
Mhm.
a great video. I know you're doing some Project Upland stuff, and so it sounds like everything just all of a sudden you know, when I talked to you a few years ago, you were kind of, hey, I got this podcast thing, and I'm kind of getting into training dogs, and
Mhm.
then the next thing I know, you're on the stage at Pheasants Forever, or you're like this, like Thomas said, you're a celebrity in the bar. Everybody's wanting to, you know, talk to you. But so how did that all happen?
we
I
were
mean,
drinking
So-
water too. We were drinking
yeah,
water.
if we maybe we can get a little bit of that lightning for us. How did that happen for you?
Look, I will tell you, man. Well, first of all, thank you. And I don't know if people were lined up the bar to talk to me so much as laugh at me. How about that? um, it was so. It's what it comes down to, man, is exactly what you said. I ended up basically unintentionally becoming a bridge between two worlds. Plantation culture is just very, very, very esoteric. It's hard to get into. How I got into it, I don't know. But then the greater community of upland hunters and bird dog folks, you know, there was always this disconnect, and I thought it was weird. I was like, well, Georgia's the heyday. I mean, like the not the heyday, but like the mecca, I guess, for a lot of quail hunting. Like if you just think about all those stories back in the 50s and stuff, like you hear about Georgia. And so I started asking myself, like, well, what happened? You know, there's still quail here. I'm finding them. You know, you got to do some more work now. It's not anything like some other places, but we've got birds, and if you got good dogs, you'll find birds. Well, the disconnect came from, I realized it when I was actually in the bird dog museum in Grand Junction. I went there visiting, and there's this guy, his name is Rufus. I found out his name is Rufus later, but he was in a very famous photo of President Eisenhower and one of his setters, matter of fact. It's a black and white photo. This black guy sitting in the back, and I was like, yeah, this photo is cool, but who is that guy? Who's the guy holding the dog? That's who I want to know. And it kept taking me down more of these rabbit holes, man, where I would get into these like research loops, and I would meet more people that knew somebody else that was raising dogs back during that time. And so I would just go and travel and meet them and interview them. If I couldn't drive to them, I would call them. I did whatever I needed to do to tell this history. It was this very fragmented, discombobulated history. I started kind of not bringing it together, but regionalizing it a bit. You know, so we understand the South is more than just Georgia. Well, there's different, you know, Southern traditions in Alabama. That's a little bit different, you know, starting to find the specificity, like the mule drawn wagon thing, that is specific to Thomasville. Nowhere else does that. You know, that originated from Thomasville. And I ended up meeting a bunch of people who remember riding wagons and stuff when they were kids. And so I'm doing all of this just for my own good, and it's helping me as be a better. I wouldn't have considered myself a dogman at that time, but working towards it. It's kind of like calling yourself a cowboy. I don't think cowboys call themselves cowboys, but um, I'm doing this in Onyx. They were sponsoring my podcast, and Christian Fichtel, the creative director there, he calls me and he says, "Hey, man," he was like, "Look, we love everything you're doing. We want to tell a story though. We want to tell something different, and I think you're the guy to do it." I was like, okay, like, you know, what do you want? And he says, well, we want to tell a story of black dogmen in the South, but we don't want it to be something so racially divisive you lose the mark. Like, that's not what we're going for. And he was like, but tell the truth, tell the story, be honest about it, be transparent. But what's a larger theme? He asked me, he's like, what's a larger theme that you see coming out of this whole thing that you're involved in? And it was easy. It was brotherhood. Brotherhood transcended race. It transcended the times. Like, I could, every time I came back to something, it always came down to the dogs and that bringing people together in a way that families get together. And so we go down there, man, and Land Limited, those guys, they were troopers. Like, we were all loaded up on horses, and there was no script. There was none of it was scripted. It was 3 days of filming. And I just told Christian, I was like, look, I'm just going to put you in the same place that I otherwise would have been doing anyway. Nothing changed. And so then once we kind of got to that point, the film just started flowing. Like, it just, everything that we were doing, and looking back on it, we laugh a lot, and that was the thing that also connected the South and us goofy guys down here to guys out in your area, right? You always in the field and you laughing. It's a good time. And so it started to humanize this very, very, very alluring experience of hunting in the Red Hills. And the other piece to it was, not all the hunting that I do is, plantation. So I don't, I'm actually on public land more than I'm actually somewhere private. And that was the thing that basically bridged the gap. Also, everybody has this misunderstanding of the South being privatized, and a lot of it is. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of it is. But there's so many wild bird opportunities on public land if you know what you're doing. And it's kind of like, well, it just opened up a pathway for new conversations. It opened up a pathway for people to be like, who are you? Who are these guys? Like, it's funny, I guess. Sorry, and I'm giving you a long-winded answer.
No, you're good.
And I'm really kind of going through this in my head because I never really thought about the totality of it. It's funny how in images, the figures like this Rufus figure was relegated to the background and to the shadows, although he was the one that trained the dogs. When you push somebody off to the shadows like that, I think what it also did in turn was make people not want to ask these same people questions in the moment. So I had a lot of guys, a lot of friends of mine are like, man, we, hunted plantations, we did this, but we never thought to ask the driver his story. We never thought to ask the guy that's on the hunt how he worked the dogs. It was always just about, oh, those dogs are really good at shooting the birds. Nobody asked any of these guys stories. And then the other piece was, well, people were like, well, is it a subjugation thing? Is it people, is it still some new age form of slavery? No, like, what I wanted to do was open up the narrative of who's actually running the hunt. Let's think about it. It's the guys on the horse. It's the black dude in front of you that's singing and hooping and hollering, and then so I think about that, and then I circle right back around and I ask my mentor, Neil, I say, hey man, how did you feel growing up, living on a plantation, working there your whole life? And he says, best time I've ever had in my life. He said, I get a chance to work dogs all day. I'm the reason why longleaf pine is flourishing like it is. I'm the one that has to make sure that these guests get a true wild bird experience. I got to deal with these horses. Everything, it was like he was feeding off of everything circulating around him. That's power to me, man. That was powerful. It was just like, okay, like, this is it. So when I was able to tell that story and empower the characters in those stories. Those are the same guys that, you know, they taught me, but I also talk trash to. You know, we're all dealing in dichotomies, man. You know, you might think one thing is this way, but then you get further into the community of it and further in deep dive into it, you find out that certain things aren't always like they seem. You know, and then the amount of gratitude that guys like, you know, guys like Charlie Chapin, who owns El Soma, you know, Gates Kirkham, like when you get done with these hunts, like the owners of these plantations, it's their properties, but they are just so grateful to have had that experience. You know what I'm saying? I think there's something to be said about that. And that was my long-winded answer.
No, and the way you guys showcase it with Onyx on the Dogmen, in no matter what, whoever you are or whatever you do, that I related to it. And I'm sure, Wade, you probably related to it as well. I mean, I had goosebumps. You guys did such a great job of showcasing what you guys do down there. It was, you know, I think that's the first thing when I talked to you at Pheasant Fest for the first time, like that gave me goosebumps. You know, I'm a dog guy, and just like you said, we're just a whole different group of people that nobody knows about, and they just think, oh, a bunch of dumb hunters. But there's that camaraderie. There's the history, you know, and even if it's just holding up your grandfather's gun, or you know, some guys wear the same hat and the same boots, or just something, and there's so much story and so much, you know, especially if you're running the dog and providing all that stuff, is that it empowers you, and then you can kind of pass that along. And so, yeah, that, you know, that'd kind of be how I felt and how you guys are doing that. And I think it's just awesome. I showed my girlfriend the Dogmen the other day, and I could see she was engaged. Thought, oh, that's really cool. You know, I never thought anybody did something like what they're doing. So
Heck yeah.
It's just that it's a cool project that you're doing, and you're just opening up some eyes to, like, oh wow, that's way different than we ever thought it would be, you know. So
Well,
certainly-
I
certainly
appreciate
in the right
you.
place at the right time.
Yeah.
To get that
Well,
story out.
Y'all got to come down. I really appreciate it. And thank you for showing her the film too, man. Like, we got to get more eyes, you know, on this kind of stuff.
And that's what we're trying to do. Of course, I like how you talk about what happens in the field between the handler and the dogs really being the art form. You know, I mean, and when you watch it as somebody who has dogs and handles dogs, I probably see a perspective different than your normal guy that's out there just to shoot birds, you know?
Yeah.
But what I'm looking, I get caught up in the rhythm and the cadence and how the dogs are moving and what the dog's communicating as they're, you know, searching for scent, and they're trying to work the wind. And, you know, those are the things that I see. And some of the things that we do and talk about, Thomas and I and other people, is to, you know, you're in the field with a client sometimes, and they're out there obviously to shoot birds, and you're talking to them, and you're like, don't you see what's just happened? You know, don't you see? I mean, you know, you're thinking
Right.
to yourself,
Right.
do you see what just happened? That this dog, you know, this dog was able to, you know, work this ridge the way it did, use the wind, double back 2 or 3 times. Now, for us, you know, we're chasing pheasants.
Yeah.
And pheasants they don't play by the rules most days. And, you know, they run, and they slurk, and they hide, and they double back, and they do everything they can do. And so when an experienced dog is able to be successful and pin that bird in gun range for whoever it is, that's a pretty big deal. And
That's a
you know, and
huge deal.
some people take that for granted because they haven't, I guess, been educated to some of the inner things that dog people know, you know, but like yourself. But those are the things that keeps me coming back, is to watch the dogs do their magic. You know, really, it is.
It brings me back to that Barry White reference earlier. It's like a love song.
Yep.
Song.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like a love song.
Well,
You're
I don't
out
know
there
about
and
that.
watching them do that, and you
I'm
know,
keeping tally of how many trademarks I'm going to have to figure out to edit out.
oh no, but
Oh my
you're
God.
right. It's poetic, and the way you guys put it on, and it was just
Yeah,
like it was poetic.
yeah, the
and
way they shot it and just I mean, the sun going down and the way I was just really, and the trees, the pines. I mean, it's just the perfect setting to, and then to put a dog and a handler on a horse, and yeah, it was just, it had all the elements, I thought.
I'd be scared of somebody filming me running my dogs.
On a
You want to
horse.
know what's
Well,
crazy?
you definitely are not going to see me on a horse, probably.
Well, we filmed a few things of me, and not on a horse, of course,
Yeah.
but yeah, we filmed a few of those, and but you know, the whole point of it for us, the podcasts we do, the films, the videos, is really to tell our story, to educate other people, to try to get interested in trying it out, try the sport. You know, you may not buy your own dog, you may not become a guy that owns a kennel and buys. How many dogs do you have now?
I have one too many. Let's go with that.
So do
I have
I.
8 right
Yeah,
now.
same here.
So do I. Yeah. So do all of us. But you may not do that, but at the same time, you know, if we can kind of let somebody know that what this is more about, I guess, then and I try to do that, you know.
Yeah.
Especially with the young kids that we have, with if it's their first hunt
Mhm.
and they take that first bird, I try to take the time to let them know, hey, there's more to it than
Mhm.
you getting that first bird. Did you see, you know, what that dog did and how
Yeah.
that dog was working for you, and you know, and just take some time to kind of say this was a great moment, and
Right.
hopefully there'll be lots more of these. But always remember this one,
Right.
because you only get the first one one time, obviously, and so.
That's
And
it.
I think you
Well,
do some inner things too with youth, don't you? Don't you do some
yes. So
kid
we
hunts?
actually, so through our nonprofit, Minority Outdoor Alliance, we are actually working on creating not only just new hunters, but career pathways. We want to bring in young guys, college age. You know, that way we can make sure you got a little bit of stability, at least some kind, and outfit you with our scholarship that should give you $10,000 over the course of 2 years to basically learn what conservation is, what upland bird hunting is, create a literary platform for yourself, give yourself a voice, is what we're trying to do for guys that are in college and say, hey, look, I want to take it to the next step. And it was modeled off of my experience. As soon as I got out of college, I was like, well, I want to do this. This is cool. And matter of fact, that we will award our scholarship recipient this weekend. Matter of fact, because the festival's this weekend. And then in addition to that, I've also done some stuff with South Carolina DNR and just putting on bird dog demonstrations and getting kids out. I also did it at Seawee up in Charleston, the same thing with Safari Club, just getting kids out. And you don't have to have them running out everywhere in a big old field. I keep my dogs on a check cord and just set out. And even if it's something I otherwise wouldn't do normally, like having a dog sight point a bird, it's for the kids, right? I can take a blank pistol out so they get to hear boom without the liability. And they get all excited and everything. And it's a learning lesson for them to be like, okay, guys, that was cool, but let's take it down, right? Like your energy is going to throw that dog off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's an easy way of showing them again that greater thing other than shooting, you know, and killing something. And it's funny how a blank pistol works, because once they hear the boom, but nothing happened on the other end of the boom, they actually lose all interest in the gun afterwards. And it's very interesting. They go right back to the dog. You know, and I've had that happen a number of times where kids that were the last one I did was Athens Land Trust, and those kids were like high school, college age. I brought one of my setters and 2 of my pointers out. And I basically had, I had them check cord all the dogs, and they walked around. They were getting pulled everywhere. And, you know, it was teaching them how to adapt their energy, right? And how to shift their energy and change their demeanor. You know, you approach one of my old crazy pointers with fear, my dogs will run you over.
Mhm.
Like, they understand that, you know. And if you're too soft with them, they will run you over. If you're too hard with them, they'll shut down on you. And it teaches a kid, you know, that kind of patience, that push and pull of, okay, do I apply pressure here? Do I not? Do I get frustrated, or do I need to find a way to reevaluate? And we had a lot of success with that. So, I mean, reaching out, the outreach portion of it is next level for me.
And dogs are really good teachers of patience,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you can really tell, and they're a great teaching tool no matter what you're doing. I do youth stuff all the time, and we involved some shed dogs a couple weeks ago, and you know they were out shooting BB guns and bow and arrows and kayaking, but as soon as we got that dog involved,
Mm-hmm.
and the kids were kind of wound up, oh, a dog, and you know, my buddy explains the whole thing, does a fantastic job of explaining, you know, the training processes and what an antler smells like and this, and you know the dog's running around just wanting petted, and the kids are petting it, which was fine. But as soon as that dog knew it was time to work, she calmed down. He kind of gave her, you know, here, sit, and then the kids just went quiet. As soon as that dog started doing what that guy was showing, you know, doing his little orchestra, they're like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's cool. And then they listen, and they were so engaged. And anytime I do the youth stuff, I talk about the dogs and how they started and tell them a story about the dogs. And then we cut them loose. And I said, just let them run for a little bit. The
Yeah.
bird's not going to be right by the park, and I do a lot of public ground. I said, just let them run. Watch how those dogs are working. And I said, if they get birdie, they'll stay there when we get to them. But just watch how they're working. The wind's at our side. They're going to go way on the left side, and they're going to work into the wind, and you'll watch them. And pretty soon, you know, those kids knew when to slow down, when to speed up, when to hook around. You know, they watch that and they just learn. So dogs are just you know, no matter if they're youth or full grown adults,
Right.
even though we're teaching them all the time, they're teaching us just as much, and then they bring us all together. So
Absolutely.
What, so kind of to wrap up, I guess, what do you got? What do you got on, what's coming up for you? What kind of projects you've got in the works here? You always have some surprises. What are those surprises coming up?
So I'm actually about to knock off like 3 states in my bucket list in one season. So
Okay.
we get one. So my Minority Outdoor Alliance Festival is this weekend. So that'll be at Orvis Purcell Farms in Sylacauga, Alabama. Once I leave there, I've got like a day and a half break, and I drive out to Nebraska, the Sandhills of Nebraska, with Ed Arnett. So Ed Arnett, he is just an incredible human being, first of all, and he was the biologist for the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership for a while, and now he is the new CEO of the Wildlife Society. And he and I went in to donate a guided hunt for the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers auction. I've got the dog power, he's got the know-how and all the stuff like that, and he's got a poodle pointer that he's bringing out. And we're going to hit the Sandhills from September 1st through the 4th. And then when I finish that, we've got some learn to hunt opportunities. Speaking about teaching in Colorado, we are doing a number of them through Pheasants Forever. So I'll be doing one in Colorado, one in Georgia. This one here will be in Alabama. And Jesus Christ, what am I trying to say? Nebraska. That's what I was trying to say. I was like, why am I forgetting that one? And in Nebraska, after those learn to hunt opportunities, and it's very base level. Like, we want to take adult onset hunters and say, hey, look, this is everything that you need to get into the field. And there'll be 5 different states. From that point, I'll go to Minnesota to hunt with my buddy Dawson Ingram. And we're going up there to hunt grouse. And I've never hunted northern grouse for the first time.
That'll be cool.
you know, and then
Now,
I
are you taking your
will.
dogs on that trip?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna be a state away from us twice.
I know he's going right
Twice.
around us.
I know.
Quite.
Twice.
You
I'm
probably have
coming
to
to
drive
y'all.
through Iowa.
If you push it out late enough, the end of about the 1st of November, if you just sneak down across the border, we
Just
can
keep
hook
on
you
coming.
up.
Well,
But
look, let
See
me
some
bug y'all and let me see what we can't do, because
There you
I
go.
mean we'll be up in that area anywho, but
Yeah.
y'all had the birds that I'm trying to get a hold of. So we'll do that. And then my last, fingers crossed, I'll be hunting. If I can make it work, I'm gonna hunt West Texas for desert quail. So
Great.
those were 3 of my handful of bucket list states that I wanted to hit.
You're gonna be putting some miles on.
You know,
Some
you got to go
miles.
to where the birds are, man.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
my funny story, and my buddies are probably listening to this or will listen to it. They went down to Arizona to chase desert quail.
How
And
was that?
they had a blast, but I don't know if they were following the GPS or what they were doing. And Uriah had bought a brand new pickup. So they took this road, and once they got down it so far, there was no turning around.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're all looking out the side window and wrap the bumper up underneath over the tailgate, so they couldn't even get the dogs out of the tailgate, so they had to
man.
get everything out over top. So make sure have somebody with you that knows where you're going.
Oh yeah.
And a tire jack, apparently.
Yeah,
Definitely gonna do that.
I got numerous Snapchats of them jumping up and down the bumper, and they finally found somebody that got it pulled down so they could get the tailgate open. And
Brand new truck.
it was pretty
Oh,
brand new. It
wow.
was pretty brand new. So
Was it a rental?
no, I think he
Right.
actually bought this truck before they left, and
Man.
yeah, let's go. And
Hey, that's what memories are made of.
and,
Right.
and that's what it is. It's
That's an
and that's
expensive
one thing
memory.
you get in any hunting story. And sometimes we like to kind of close with that. Is like, what is your most memorable hunting story? No matter if it was in Georgia, Alabama, California, we don't care. We just kind of want to hear like one that when you go to tell a story, when you get to shooting the bull around the fire or in the hunting
Yeah.
shack.
What's your go-to?
go-to?
What's your go-to story about your dog?
Okay. So I got a couple of them.
Probably
Got a
about
few of 'em.
about a setter, don't you imagine?
I think so.
You know, I wish it was, but we gonna get there though. These stories, I didn't have my setters at the time, but
Okay,
we gonna get
okay.
there. One of them, man, it was simple, and it wasn't the most pristine dog work. It was a light bulb moment for my dogs. So in Georgia, it's still hot, like well into November. It's still very hot in South Georgia. And so we were going, and we run the risk of rattlesnakes all the time. And what that means is if you shoot a bird and it falls and they'll hit the ground, if you don't hit it clean, it might get up and run off, run into a bush or something like that. Well, how bad you want to stick your hand in a bush down in Georgia to reach up for a dog?
Good point.
Right. And I don't let my pointers retrieve. I have a lab that'll walk with me and do all of that stuff for me. So, but I wasn't running them at the time like that now, and I really hadn't figured out what I was going to do about retrieving. Like I just was like, all right, well, eventually I need to start figuring out how I'm going to retrieve these birds. So I was training my young dog and just using a blank pistol. Well, we're hunting now. So I get my lab, and he's heel broke, all kinds of stuff like that. And the whole time, the first 2 times I hunted them together, he would like bully him. Like they wouldn't cooperate. He would like knock him off point. He would just do dumb stuff. And I was like, dude, come on, man. Like, just get it together. And I went to my favorite. It felt like a regular day. I went to my favorite public land area in Thomasville, Georgia. And we go, and I send Vegas off, and he just boom. I mean, perfect shooting dog race, about 250 yards out. It just locks up, and I still have a photo of it. It was almost like somebody planted birds there. I felt like they were just sitting in a covey right on this edge of wiregrass and like a burn area. I mean, you couldn't have painted a better picture. The dog is standing locked up. I mean, high tail, head high, and he wasn't even a year old at the time. Like he was looking good. And so I was like, all right. And I looked down and I was like, man, my lab's name is Ruger. I was like, dude, this is too good. Don't mess this up. Like, just don't. I don't even care if I hit a bird. Just don't mess this up. And it was just like, I think he just got it. He was just like, this is a moment we need to value. And he goes in there like a pro flushing dog, and just, he doesn't bother Vegas on point, knocks those birds, gets them up in the air, boom, boom, bam. I hit one. It goes down. I send Vegas off after the rest of the covey. I send Ruger to go get this dog. It just worked out. But it was the moment where I could just see that light bulb moment hit. And I think he was just like, this is it. This is what we're working for. And I have that image burned into my head of that dog on point right there on that corner. And I look down at my lab and he looks back up at me, and we march on in.
I know what to do, boss.
I know what to do.
Yep, I get it. I get it
now, mind you, and he was messing with Vegas any other time, and the two of them are like inseparable now.
Kind of like, okay, you got it. I'm not gonna.
I sense another trademark creeping in here.
No, I wasn't gonna do it. I was never even thinking of that. But no, these dogs, they do that, and I could tell you a million stories of all my dogs, and I have a separate story for each of them. And
yeah.
So that is.
You have a
that is
story
cool.
for me?
I was gonna say, y'all got to share stories. It can't just be me now.
I got one for you.
Oh, you might have to tell me that when we log off here. But.
I don't know. I just remember it was 50-degree wind and it was cold, very cold. But Durrell, it's been a blast, man. You know, talking to you tonight, and hey, get to Iowa, let us know. We'll get you on some of those big thunder chickens.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm coming to Iowa next, and I'm bringing them setters for you.
That's all right.
I love it.
We got plenty of room for
Want
you.
to hunt over those.
Let's do it.
Take care. We'll be looking forward to your next project.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all so much for having me on, guys.
Talk to
All
you
right.
soon.
Keep their nose in the wind.